Welcome to the I'm Book podcast. I'm April O'Leary, and this is the YouTube version of our podcast. To get the audio version, you can hop on over to Spotify or anywhere that you consume audio podcasts. We are going to jump into some really cool content, so stay tuned for our next guest. We look forward to connecting with you, and be sure to subscribe. And to start your author adventure, hop on over to o'learypublishing.com, where you can map out the entire process and see what writing a book would look like for you. Let's get started. Welcome to the I'm Book podcast. I'm April O'Leary, founder of O'Leary Publishing, and I am really excited today. We have Keri-Rae Barnum here from New Shelves. She is an expert on book marketing, and she and I had the chance to meet twice recently in Orlando at the IBPA conference and the FAPA conference. So welcome to the show, Keri.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to see your face. And I was just saying right before we started recording, she has these beautiful plants behind her. And I'm sort of envious of anyone who can keep a plant alive. So, that's a skill that clearly you bring to the table as well.
That's right. I'll just add it to my resume.
Yes, please do.
Occasional plants, yep.
Yeah, so she is the executive director of New Shelves, which is based out of New York, right?
Yes, Rochester, New York.
Tell me a little bit about New Shelves.
Yeah, so New Shelves, we actually started as a book distributor. So we had a warehouse. We shipped books out to libraries and bookstores, the whole 9 yards, in 2006. But as the publishing industry has evolved, we have evolved with it. And so as print on demand became more popular, and as a lot of our small and mid-level press clients we're moving towards that kind of model, we realized that warehousing books and offset print works for some people fabulously, but it's not really what works for everyone. So we ended up closing down our book warehouse in 2016 and started focusing specifically on book marketing and publishing consulting in the area of really helping indie and small press authors focus on how they can professionally publish, how they can do everything that the big guys do. And really, we are starting to see this huge shift of how indie publishing is breaking into the market. They've got more of the sales coming in, and they're starting to make a place for themselves. And we've been really blessed and lucky to be a part of that since 2017, where we are helping authors market their books to bookstores, to libraries, and online with just as much success and just as much opportunity as, the top 4, the top 5 publishers out there. It's been a really great experience. We love working with authors and publishers.
It's so interesting, in the course of interviewing various people for this podcast, from literary agents to people who help with writing book proposals to try to get one of those big 4 publishing deals. Just recently, I spoke to a gentleman who was published through a hybrid publisher who has partnered with a traditional publisher to offer the distribution. So there's just so much out there right now. Where do you see independent publishing really continuing to evolve?
Yeah, I think what we are seeing now and will continue to see is where indie authors and indie publishing has this opportunity to start small and grow big. That's kind of the beauty of indie publishing, is that you can start on a little bit smaller of a platform, a more accessible platform, and grow as your platform, as your name and your sales grow, because there are those types of partnerships happening with hybrid publishers and bigger warehouses, distribution opportunities. And I see that continuing to grow to where indies are, right now we kind of have the top 4. We're looking at some possible mergers going on. It's been in the news. But I see indies and the sales, if you look at the numbers, support this, where indies are kind of coming in as another big player collectively. And I see that continuing to grow. I think we will see more of that. And I think as publishers expect more from their authors in terms of marketing and pushing their own sales, I think we're going to see even some of the bigger names move more towards an indie focus. If you're going to have to, market yourself and work for yourself, why not make more of the profit and have more control of the process?
I love that. It's so true. It's interesting. TikTok has become such a big driver for book sales with book talk trending. And my youngest daughter, who's 15, latched onto Colleen Hoover, who I'm sure you've heard of. And I was kind of peeked in her room the other day and she was reading this book. And I'm always like looking at the copyright pages, like who published this. And it was a book that she had done independently. So even though she has that traditional publishing relationship, still she's publishing some of the things on her own. So it is very much, I'd say, as you said, an opportunity for authors to potentially make more profit if they're willing to invest their money up front in their own projects and control their work. So with new authors, as you said, starting small with your platform that may be very, very minimal, but you want the book to grow your business. And that was certainly me in 2012. I was a life coach. I had written my first book, and I realized at that point in time that no traditional publisher is going to be interested in my tiny platform. So I used the book to grow, but I didn't really have a lot of book marketing skills at all. I didn't, it was almost like, if you write it, shouldn't they just buy it? But so now that I understand a little bit more, I hope 10 years later, what do you recommend for a very new author to start focusing on, and at what point in the process, either prior to publication or after publication, where do you see marketing being really critical for that new author?
I think marketing starts the minute you decide you are going to be an author. Whether you are indie or you're going for a traditional deal, platform matters, and you need an audience to launch to. So I think one of the best things that hopeful authors, entrepreneurs, anyone who has something to market, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to build your email list, because then you have contacts to reach out to directly. And if you're talking to agents, they are looking at email list and the reach that you have there. Or if you're doing it on your own, if you are doing your own marketing as an indie author, having an email list is, that's how you can jump to a bestseller, because you've got a lot of people at one time who are there to support you, or who are at least willing to hear your message. And so whether it be through your business platform and creating a email list with a downloadable PDF, offering people something of value that's free, because our emails are our currency now. And so if we want people to give us their email addresses, we're going to have to give them something pretty juicy in return. So offering, if you're nonfiction, do you have a really helpful PDF or a video? I have someone who works in energy healing, and what she offers people when they sign up for her newsletter is that she actually gives them a guided video for some energy healing. So you can really get creative in there. If you're a fiction author, can it be a prequel to your story, a short story, a little taste of what you offer? And that's something that can start no matter where you are in the process. So I think that's one of the best things that authors can do for themselves. And the other thing is to realize that there are so many people out there giving advice, great and not so great. But what's really important is that you know your specific audience and who you're trying to reach, and that you go to where they are at. If you're a nonfiction and you're maybe doing a yoga book, well, then you need to find out where people who enjoy yoga, where they're getting their book information from, where they're hanging out online. If you're a young adult fiction author, where are your readers at? Because no matter if you're doing all the right things, if you're not doing them in the right places, you're going to get nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great information to think about. You don't have to start from scratch in a corner by yourself. If you were going to go learn yoga, for example, you would go to a yoga studio. You don't have to teach yourself at home. And so in this case, you got your book or your book idea, and to go where the people are. I think that was a mistake I made early on, was I was blogging on my own website, because the life coach mentor that I took my classes with, he said, you really got to start a blog. And I was like, okay, I'll start a blog. So I started a WordPress blog, and I was blogging on there every day, but I didn't have any website traffic, like none. And I didn't know how to get any website traffic. And I didn't know, like, where are the people going to come from? I just kept thinking, if I just keep blogging, like somehow magically people are going to like find it. So if you were talking to me back then, what would you say to me? Yeah, you're
Oh, I
laughing.
would say
It's
this is
really the God
not,
honest truth.
unfortunately, this is not the field of dreams. If you build it, they probably won't come. However, I think part of that is actually really good. Creating content on your own site is valuable, but that's just the foundation. Then you need to go and you need to find people interested in your topic. We don't call this stealing, we call this borrowing or sharing audiences. So maybe as a life coach, you could go to a well-known publication and offer to write them an article of value, and then your byline at the bottom. So then you can write a killer article while the socks off the readers, and they go, oh, I want to know who April is. Let me go to her website. Let me sign up for her website. And that is how you build it. So as much as you want to build your own platform, collaboration is key. Being able to really work with others in your industry or in your specific genre, having networking, and like we went to FAPACON, we went to the publishing industry events, and that's how we meet. And so having opportunities like that to know others who are in the same field, who are working there, is really going to be key, because writing can be lonely business, and it pays to find friends, find your people, not only as far as your readership, but find others in your field who can support you and who you can support, because that makes a world of difference.
I love that. You're right. Writing can definitely be lonely, and it's tempting. And I will say that if I was talking to myself 10 years ago, because that's a great tip. And I did eventually kind of find my way into some local magazines and built a little bit of local community that way, which is a nice logical next step. But I had this feeling that I wasn't good enough because I wasn't getting the website traffic, for example. But it wasn't that anything to do with me. It was that I wasn't creating the partnerships or reaching out and going where other people were. I was sort of in my own corner doing my own thing, waiting for someone to kind of find my corner of the interwebs, right? So, if you're listening now and you feel like you have a book in your hand, you recently published a book, and you feel like you're doing stuff and like nobody's showing up, maybe it's because you're too far into your own world and you need to reach out to, like you said, other publications, online publications or local magazines, and start to show up in those places where your audience is. So from that point of view, getting your, if we're talking about writers, and authors, so that's a great strategy, because for someone who's not interested in writing, that might be a little difficult. But what are some other ways that you've seen people growing their platform, showing up and successfully sort of building their network or building awareness? What are other things that authors could do?
Sure. I think simply being there, be part of the community you want to support you. If you want readers, we're looking for that connection from the authors that we read, the people we interact with. We want a connection. So the more that you connect, the more that you spend time. If you are an author and you've got a TikTok or a Facebook page, make sure that you're consistently putting out content. We forget really quickly. So if you're not consistent, we're probably going to forget you. And more importantly than that, I think, is interaction. It's not enough to throw up a great TikTok video or to put up the most motivational Facebook post ever. When people comment on it, it pays to respond and also support others in your industry. They will support you in turn. And it all builds up. It's these little things, I call them 10-minute marketing moments, where there's just 10 minutes. If you take it and you do something that is active, they build over time, because you're not going to build your platform in a day. You will not go from no books unknown to a New York Times bestseller over a day. It takes many little moments that build up to that. So consistency is key, and you have to show up for yourself. If you want others to show up for you, if you want your book to sell, you have to show up for yourself as well. And I think that's, whether you're traditional or indie, no matter where you are on the spectrum, that's important, and realizing that no one else will be as passionate about your project as you are. So you've got to get your hands dirty. And I think that's important to realize.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And knowing your audience, knowing what they want to hear, one of the things that I also learned back then, and maybe this is something that will benefit some who are listening now, is think about what they want to hear. What are their problems? Not necessarily just what you want to say. Because we could spend all day saying, well, I want to talk about this and my passion is that. But if the people that you want to serve, are like, for example, if you're an expert, handstander in yoga, but not that many people, people just don't understand how to do the basic, down dog and all of that. You might say, yes, I'm passionate about doing handstands and really making it, but my people who want to read my book are at a different level than me, even potentially. Have you seen that as a way that authors have maybe tripped over themselves at times? Or are there other ways authors trip over themselves and get in their own way?
Yeah, I think that's really important, is that, as you said, we have to expand. Even if you have a niche, you have to expand beyond that. No one wants to hear the same thing over and over. So maybe it is the basics of yoga that you talk about one day, and then maybe it's something advanced. Then you know what we really want? We want emotion. We want to hear what you struggled with. We want to know that when you first started, you could not make it. You were trying that handstand again and again and you failed, but you got back up. You were motivated. People want to be inspired, and they want that emotion and connection. So making sure that we bring that in, and also allowing people in personally. We're again seeing this more and more, that no matter what genre you write in, people want to know you as a full person, not just as a one topic wonder. We had those one hit wonders. We don't want one topic wonders either. And positivity is so important. No one wants a grumpy Gus. No one wants to hear your complaints all the time. Now, yes, we all have those days. We all have our grumpy days. We all have our moments where we're a little snarky. But overall, we come back for positivity and for realness, because that is what attracts us to people and to people's platforms. So I think it's important to be real and honest, but also check ourselves regularly so that we are not using our platforms as a dumping ground for our bad moods.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. I've certainly had people I've followed over the years who were one topic wonders, as you said. And I kind of got what I needed at the time. And then there was just nothing left for me there, because I was kind of sick of that topic after a while, even though I liked the person. And I was like, I wish they had some other angles to what they were doing here. So I think that was hopping onto the landing pad or whatever. And then it was like, I'm done here. So how would you go about doing that? Branching out and making sure you're not just diluting your message. Take, for example, this particular platform I'm talking about is focused all on parenting, mostly on younger kids. So as my kids got older, my kids are now in college and high school, and it's like, I don't want to hear about screaming toddlers anymore. I'm not interested, and maybe that brand is more interested in just attracting new parents all the time. And then they realize people are going to graduate off their platform at some point, but maybe there is a missed opportunity as well.
Well, I think there's always an opportunity. Whether or not it's right for you, you've got to decide, and if it aligns with your goals. But if someone has built a really strong platform for parents of toddlers, Well, chances are they have a really strong platform coming in a couple years for parents of elementary school, of middle school, of teenage years. So you do have basically a built-in platform if you grow with it. And that goes for a lot of industries. Can you grow? Can you learn new things? Things are constantly changing. How can you kind of pull those in? So that's one way, is we may kind of not stop our original platform, but expand and section off. It's okay. I mean, as authors, especially, we see this a lot. It's okay to section off. It's okay to separate your mailing list into your toddlers, into teens, and kind of separate out the value that way. It's a little bit more work, but it's twice as much of a platform, and that's a ton of opportunity. And also, if there is something that you know your audience needs that you're not an expert in, I don't have teenagers yet. I'm not sure what parents of teenagers really care about, but I have tons of friends and contacts who do. How can I use their knowledge and kind of work that in to support my audience? We don't have to know everything. We just have to know how to reach out to other people who know what we don't. And that's really important.
I love that. I love that. So it sounds like a lot of marketing comes down to building relationships, expanding your brand, being consistent with your content, showing up for other people. What other things that are we missing here? Because I know media is a big piece of the puzzle that's often elusive, especially to new authors. Like, should I create a press release? If I did, where am I supposed to send it? Is it even worth it? You know, it's very confusing, I think, the world of media. So where would a new author start if they wanted to and felt comfortable with kind of seeking out some media?
Sure. As far as media is concerned, I think it's really important to separate out the difference between PR and marketing and advertising. They are three things that go hand in hand, but they are different. PR, that actual public relations, is like a billboard. It is just telling people, I'm here, look at me. But it's not really asking for a sale. It's simply telling people you're there. Marketing is a set of activities where you are asking for sales, where you are actually doing things that you're hoping to see an ROI on. And advertising is where you're paying to get in front of potential buyers. So again, they go hand in hand, but it's important to realize the difference. And when we're looking at PR, that's usually media. That's your press release. The thing with the press release is that having a new book is not news. It's just having a new book. However, if you have a new book that is completely focused on a historical moment that's being celebrated a 100th anniversary this year, can you tie it into that? Can you celebrate this event and tie your book in? That's news. Can you celebrate a local business opening and your book and how it ties in and supports them? That's local news. That's what PR is finding how you can tie your message, your branding, or your book into news. And yes, if you have opportunity, I think you should take them with the understanding that it is brand awareness, it is recognition. It doesn't always result in sales and royalties. It offers different value though. So you have to know whether or not that meets your goals. Are your goals to be nationally known to build your brand? Are you building your business with your book? Then great, PR is a perfect outlet for you. But if you are trying to say, whatever I do, I want to make sure that I have ROI, that it pays for itself, that I'm earning income, PR is probably not your best spot to spend your money on. Maybe some time, but not your money. So, and also ask, connect, find people locally that you can connect to, whether it be your local newspaper, local bookstores, libraries. Ask. The worst they can do is say no, maybe ignore you, and that's okay. Not everyone has to say yes, but if you never ask, you'll never get. So we've got to start asking, and asking with a point and a purpose. Don't just ask for attention, but give people a reason to give you attention, and then ask for something specific. Go to your local newspaper and ask if they will feature your local press release. Ask if they will review your book. Don't just ask for them to, I'd love an interview. Great. For what? Why? We have to be specific. The more specific we are when we ask, the more likely we are going to get what we want.
It's a great differentiator. And I think that was a great explanation of how PR, marketing, and advertising are all different. They're kind of under the same umbrella, but each has its own purpose, and where we spend our time and our money and our attention and the results we can expect to get back from each of those activities is different. So if you had to boil it down to like one thing you really felt like authors should do to market their book, what is that one thing? Is there one thing?
Oh, just one. I think
Or
one
two?
of the most important things for marketing your book is to learn advertising, because there are approximately 4 million books published. If we include all ebooks and KDP and Amazon platforms, 4 million books published per year. Literally millions of books are published a year. And it's really hard to stand out if you're not doing something to optimize your opportunity. Amazon ads, this is how you can find your niche in order to show up in a search. So rather than showing up on the 100th search on an Amazon page, which no one's looking there, you can show up on the first 1, 2, or 3 pages. If your book's not seen, it can't be bought. So whatever that means for your book, you've got to get seen. And that means typically advertising is going to be a part of any marketing plan. And if you don't have a budget for advertising, then you've got to work the PR and the marketing to get features, which is where you're essentially trading your time or your energy or your content in order to get featured. That's where we go out and maybe offer an article or ask for a review from someone, big name endorsements. These are things that we can do that don't necessarily take money, but they take time, which is also precious. But
Right.
you've really got to go after a way to stand out in the crowd if you want to sell books.
Yeah. Wow, 4 million books a year. It makes you feel like you're swimming in an ocean never to be discovered again. But the good news is, I believe in the 80-20 principle, right? So 80% of those books are probably garbage. Like we'll just throw those out. So there's 20% that are good. And of those 20%, 80% of those people are probably not marketing it. So you could be in the top, 20% of the 80. So I think that it's not that hard if you put the effort and the willingness to learn. I think that's partly what gets a little bit overwhelming, I should say, for a new author, is that authors are great writers and they come to the table with like their manuscript and they're proud of it and their book publishing process is exciting. And then it's a whole new skill set to learn. And as you said, you can either learn yourself, spend your own money, spend your own time, spend your own effort, but you've got to put something to put gas in the engine. So how does New Shelves work with new authors to help them get the process going?
Yeah. One of the things that we do, and I am so passionate about, is helping authors create a roadmap to know what to do. Because as you said, so many authors come with the manuscript and they're like, I did my part, I'm done. And that's just not the truth anymore. So it's important that you are willing to market, but even very willing authors will often say, I'll do it, but I don't know what to do, or I'm spending hours and hours and feel like I'm getting nowhere. So one of the things that I do is that I will work directly with authors on a consulting hour to create a roadmap of identifying where that author specific market is, how to reach them, and then we create that plan of 10-minute marketing moments. Can you give me 10 minutes a day? If so, here are the things that you can do. On Monday, send out 3 emails to bookstores. On Tuesday, just respond to messages on Facebook and post your TikTok. On Wednesday, can you go out and ask for a review? On Thursday, check up on some Amazon ads. It's more about knowing where you're going, because if you have no direction to go, you're going to spin in circles. And so not only do we work on marketing programs with authors, like reaching out directly to bookstores and libraries, but it all has to start with strategy. And we do that with a lot of authors, where we help authors find the strategy that meets their goals, and we make it manageable for what they're willing to do and their commitment,
Yeah,
because then you'll see more success that way.
I love that. I'm writing that down, marketing strategies for authors. I think that's going to have to be the title of our podcast today, because that really is the key. It's that you can spend a lot of time and effort and feel like, you're not getting anywhere. And maybe it's because you don't really have a strategy and there's not really any sort of measurable outcomes you're going towards, like the throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping something sticks, and then feeling like, I guess my book wasn't good enough, or maybe I'm not good enough. But it really wasn't about either of those. It was really about the fact that maybe you just didn't have the marketing strategy. You didn't have someone who could really help you with it. Somebody who actually knows what works, because there's a million ways to spend your money out there. There really is. And it doesn't mean that's just spending, swiping your credit card and spending a lot of money on Amazon ads. If you don't know what you're doing, you may not get the results. So working with someone like you and like New Shelves is so key, especially for new authors, because it is a learning process. So what would you say, sort of in closing here, I guess some parting words of encouragement for authors who are like, oh my God, I can't believe I got myself into this?
I think the most important thing is just to realize that you wrote your book for a reason and a purpose, either because you love to write or for your business, whatever it is, you have a message to share. And that's your core. As long as you have something to work for, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And marketing sounds big and scary, but it's really not. You just have to break it down into manageable little bites. And also, it's so important to manage the expectations, to realize that if you are reaching out to 10 people and you only get one response, that's actually really normal and even good in some cases. If you're reaching out to 10 newspapers and you get one response, you're above average. You did it. So having a measurable way to look at your marketing efforts, to see what that usually looks like, is helpful. And again, that all goes back to community. Plug into a community, whether it be of business people or authors. Having community is what keeps us going day after day. They're the people who pick us up when we're like, I'm done, I'm giving it up, just no more. And they are also the people who help take us out of our head and brainstorm and create new ideas. Without community, we're just in our own heads. I don't know about you, but my own head gets kind of scary sometimes, and it's limited. I need other people to help me grow simply by, iron sharpens iron. We've got to make sure that we are pushing ourselves. And the best way to do that is simply to find your community. And I think that is the number one thing for authors and for marketing, is that if you want your book or being an author to be your long-term success story, you've got to find the people that help support you in getting there and who keep you going day after day.
I love that. It's so true. And I think that just by doing that as well, it helps you stay out of your head. It helps you to connect with other people, to add more to the stream of life. Sometimes part of marketing to me is not always what's in it for me. How can I get the book sold? Maybe it's sharing someone else's book. Maybe it's commenting on their post. Maybe it's sharing their post to your Instagram story. It's, I think in the days, of content production, social media, we can be so obsessed with our own stats and how many comments and likes did I get on my post. And, we know how good it feels when people are commenting on our stuff, and to remember that other people like it when we comment on their stuff, so I think that that's the key, right? In community is going into the community with how can I add to this place, not what can I get out of it.
Yes, and I will say almost always when you give, you very often get. It's just kind of the natural order. And when you go with a heart to give and with a mindset of building up, everyone rises. We all rise together.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, I've seen it in my own career, in my own life, and I've seen it with many authors that when you work together, you get so much further than when you're walking alone.
I love that. So what's the best way for them to get in contact with you at New Shelves?
Yep, you can visit my website at newshelves.com. And I also do have every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I do a live marketing Q&A. It's completely free. We call it Free Advice Fridays. Anyone's welcome to join as they please. And you can visit that at newshelves.com/FAF for Free Advice Fridays. And I just take book marketing questions, publishing questions, and we use that community to just answer questions and grow week after week.
I love that. What a great resource. What a great way to build community. So make sure I will put that link in our show notes. It's newshelves.com/FAF for Free Advice Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern, you said, right? So if
Yes,
you're on
10
the
a.m.
West Coast, you could get your cup of coffee and tune in at 7 a.m. or anytime in between. I thank you so much for your time today, Keri, and for being part of this community, for sharing your wisdom on book marketing, hopefully helping some new authors. And for those of you listening, I encourage you to follow Keri, follow New Shelves, and really learn the skill of marketing, because that's the way you're going to be able to build your community with the book that you care so much about. Thank you again, Keri, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thanks so much.
So this has been another episode of the iBook Podcast. I'm April O'Leary signing off. Be sure to hop on over to o'learypublishing.com to start your author adventure and see what writing a book could do for you in your profession, in your career, and what doors it might open. We thank our guests for being a part of the show today, and be sure to subscribe to podcasts here on YouTube. We look forward to serving you and helping you get your book out into the world.